Hello, welcome to Civilization 7 and to Writing Bull. Up in the corner the word advertisement, thank you very much. A publisher 2K Games, they hired me for you to make this crash course video for you. A compact tutorial video equally suitable for beginners as well as for veterans of the series. Civilization 7 will be released for PC, PlayStation 5 and 4, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One and Nintendo Switch. On Steam for PC, Mac and Linux, multiplayer works equally well. Crossplay lets you start on one platform, save your game and continue on another. You can play against other people who are on different platforms, and of course in single player mode you can try to explore, discover and conquer the world. In the main menu of the game, whether multiplayer or single player, you can start a new game. On the left you'll see all the leaders you can play as. To choose from, if you click on one of the portraits, it will show you on the right the advantages they bring to a game. Below that, there are empty slots at the beginning for so-called mementos. Behind this is a reward system for successful games. Attention, it's not pay to win or any other absurd little things, it's actually quite simple. If you play a lot and often with a leader, for example Augustus here, you gradually collect experience points and unlock the ability to use certain cards. At the start of a new game, as you can see here, if you were to play with Augustus, you could click on one of the 2 empty memento slots. These are some standard advantages you can choose from. We've unlocked some over time. You may use them, but it's optional. If you want to use them in multiplayer mode, of course, you should calmly discuss it with the other players. The whole thing is an offer especially for less experienced players who can use these advantages to maybe try out higher difficulty levels. One step further. Ages and civilizations. There is antiquity, the age of exploration and the modern age. You can achieve victory in the modern age. You can play from the very beginning and progress from era to era, that's the standard gameplay experience, or you can play each era individually and advance all the way to the modern age. I recommend starting with the classic experience in the ancient era. Next step, you choose a civilization. In each era there are 3 civilizations to choose from at release, which you can combine with your leaders in any way you like. A small symbol of your leader shows you that there is a civilization that could somewhat match him. However, you can also choose any other one just as you like. After that, one step further. On the left, the difficulties and game speeds, map types and map sizes of the random maps that are available for selection. My tip would be to start with Continents Plus, that's what the game was optimally designed for, and maybe not to start with standard map size, but rather with small, that's actually good for getting started. Behind the advanced options you'll find the player options here. There you can prevent running into completely random opponents and instead set your preferences for who you want to compete against and which civilization that leader should start with. That's optional, use it if you want. The game starts when you click Start Game. At the start of the game, you begin with a single unit. When you click on this founder, you can see how far he can move, that's the blue border. This unit has 3 movement points shown here. Potentially you can move 1 tile per movement point. However, there are also tiles that limit or slow down how far you can move, usually by simple rules. Rivers slow you down, as do so-called impassable terrain and vegetation. You move all your units in turn-based rounds, carry out all actions, then the round changes and the major AI empires can perform their actions. After that, it's your turn again and you have hex tiles on the map. By pressing the Y key on your PC, you can display the resource yields of all the different terrain tiles. Simple rule, green icons show lots of food and hammers show lots of production. Gold is good, but production and food matter more, especially early in the game. As you can see, rivers are usually helpful too. Go ahead and found the settlement right there in the bottom right, that's where the city is. You can't change city names later in Civilization 7. The golden star shows you that this is your capital city. Capitals have a palace that is automatically built in their city center, and because of that, these cities have especially many resources that they have from the very beginning. You can select the production either by clicking on this icon in the bottom right. You can close any window that pops up either by clicking the X or by right-clicking anywhere. You can also click on the name tag and this will pop up as well. Later in the game, you can carry out 4 categories of construction projects: the buildings that you place on one of these terrain tiles, and the units that you can move across the map. There will be projects later on. That's a special case that's not very interesting at the beginning. And there are also Great Wonders, which can only be built once on the map by a single faction, and are incredibly complex to construct. At the top, you can see the yields in the city: food, production, and money. Blue ones are research points, Erlenmeyer flasks, and musical notes represent culture. Both are types of research, cultural and technological. The smiley face smiling at you symbolizes your city's happiness. And the globe stands for the influence resource, a very flexible resource that you use to communicate with other factions and with independent settlements. Everything you have here except for World Wonders can either be produced with production points or bought with gold. However, at the beginning, with 0 gold, we have relatively few options. The first unit in the game is always free. You can choose between a basic melee unit or a scout. The scout moves faster, can't attack but can defend itself, and is relatively good for exploring the map. 1 turn later, the AI takes its turn in the background. Now it's your turn again, and for the first time you have the option to choose a technology. These 3 are available at the start. If you click on View Tree, you'll see the scientific tree in this view, which shows you from left to right, connected by golden arrows, how you progress along the research tree. Within this era, each of the 3 eras has its own unique technology tree. Agriculture. That's where you start. The checkmark shows you that you've already completed it. You can choose between sailing, pottery, and animal husbandry. Above that, you can see the buildings or units that you can build from then on. Here, for example, a slinger, a basic ranged unit, and a sawmill. A building that you can add to the city. The plus signs show you that you are unlocking something new. A bonus here, for example, is that food production on pastures is always a bit higher, and that you get increased lumber production. Other bonuses can also mean, for example, that the limit for the number of settlements you can build increases, or you get a great building. For example, here's the settlement limit. Right-click to deselect. After the first turn, if you want, you can now either build a second unit, which actually takes a bit longer now, or construct your first building. For example, this granary. That's a simple building, standing timelessly aside. That means it will always produce the same yields, while many other buildings will only provide part of their yields after an age change. The rule of thumb is that this building always provides a base yield. For example, it always gives 1 food. And on every farm, every plantation, every pasture, in other words, each of these rural improvements within the city's range, 1 more food would be added. These are base yields. Later, more advanced buildings become available, which also provide so-called adjacency bonuses. That means if such a building, for example, is next to a river or next to a mountain or next to a wonder, there may be extra yields for that building. This is always indicated in the tooltip. My tip here is definitely to press the Y key. Let the yields be displayed. For those buildings where it doesn't matter where they are placed, just put them anywhere. Terrain tiles that you can safely build over with a city building because they're simply uninteresting for rural modernization. For example, up here is impossible terrain and a grass field. Whether there's a farm there later or not doesn't really matter. Bam, put a granary on it. There it is, it takes quite a while. Careful if this seems too slow for you. And if you have the necessary cash, you can switch from production to buying the rider at any time and build such a building as well. If you have multiple buildings, arrows will appear in the construction queue to let you change their order. If you buy a building, it will always cost the full fixed yield. That means buildings you've already constructed are just as expensive as buildings you haven't built yet. Now let's explore the map with our first spear. Most of the map is covered by the fog of war. There are different levels of visibility. Everything you've already uncovered and currently have vision over is brightly lit. Terrain tiles that you already know but can't currently see are revealed but a bit dimmed. And everything around it lies in eternal fog. For too long an eternity, until you move there with a spear or another unit and you see what's going on there. One more turn. AI rulers act in the background. Your unit returns. You can move units either bit by bit, step by step, or all at once. You don't lose any movement points if you move step by step. That might actually be a good thing, so you can react to certain things and change direction if needed. By now we have a second citizen in the city, and that means we can claim another tile. These cities or these settlements can be managed. Up to the third ring around a city tile, first, second, third ring around it, you will never be able to reach the fourth ring. If you're wondering how closely you should build settlements together, building inside another city's 3-ring area isn't allowed, so your next settlement must be in the 4th ring. I would generally recommend leaving a good safety distance between the cities so they can develop well. We click on Expand City and now we place what's called a rural modernization. That ensures that another citizen works somewhere here in the city. And in the process, the appropriate modernization for this terrain tile in this era is created automatically and instantly. There are no workers in the game. As shown in the tooltip, a lumberjack is created and below is a farm. The icons indicate what to expect next. A modernization has been built up here, and you can see that the borders are expanding further and that we're entering the second ring here. Also, something very exciting has been uncovered here. In the fog of war, a ruin, a possible loot for your scout. You can grab a one-time reward there. We'll take the unit, move over, and try to get down here as quickly as possible. Another round forward, turn calculation times are pleasantly short in the game. And we'll go around the outside along the front here. Reveal even more, reveal another thing, a cave that we can move into. And more resources on the map. Another round forward, move up again, one space ahead. And which of the two loots would you like? It doesn't really matter. And usually an event pops up now, meaning a selection of options you can choose from. A little story is told. Sometimes there's a red border around it. You must accept a penalty. For one round you get no science, but you'll receive a big reward in return. In this case, 100 satisfaction, or you can accept a smaller reward without paying a penalty. Let's take the 30 culture reward. As shown in the top left, cultural research is nearly complete. I'll click on it once. Cultural research and scientific research run in parallel in the game, so you don't need to choose what to research, and there's also a similar research tree here. In later eras, you'll have several of these trees running in parallel at the top. That means there are also policies in the Age of Exploration for your civilization, and also a policy tree for theology for religion in the Second Age. Then this principle doesn't apply, then you can only work on one of these individual subtrees within the cultural tree. You can only conduct research at one time, so you must decide. Oops, who did we uncover there? A scout approaching us from an independent settlement? The tooltip says that this scout and the other units from this settlement are hostile toward you. These settlements start out either friendly or hostile, and this attitude status applies to all factions equally on the map, not just to you. You don't need to fear the scout, he can't attack you. We can expand our city again. Early on, I would recommend that you develop towards these resources, especially those you can connect by the third ring, and expand your settlement in that direction, because they are usually quite interesting and what they provide is shown in the tooltip. Now the next focus is also available, and again there's the opportunity to start a research. Here's my tip, from now on always go for mysticism in every game. The plus sign lets you found a Pantheon. That means you'll have access to a basic form of faith, so definitely do that. And we've just unlocked another option by completing our first cultural achievement. We can choose a government. Sol Edition 7 works in such a way that at the beginning of each era, you have a choice between 2 or 3 eras, between 2 or 3 governments that fit that era. Each of them provides a bonus, but not throughout the entire era, only during the celebrations you have. Celebrations come from satisfaction, more on this later. Here you see the classic Republic. If you select it at the start of a celebration, you can choose for that celebration lasting 10 turns whether you want to get a bonus to culture or a bonus to the production of wonders. Depending on which form of government you choose, a different selection will be available to you. You make this choice at every subsequent celebration, regardless of what you chose at a previous celebration. As a beginner, I would recommend the oligarchy, because you can never go wrong with food and production, no matter what stage of the game you're in. Next feature, social policies are now available. This is a simple card system with 3 tabs at the bottom. This is a general overview. For example, you can see when your next celebration starts, or if you're at one, how long it will last. Crisis will matter at an era's end. That's the default. You have a social policy slot open on the right side. That means you can take one of the cards on the left, move it to the right, and get a bonus from it. The number of social policies available to you increases over the course of a game. As a rule of thumb, whenever you have another celebration, you also unlock another social policy slot as a reward, where you can place another bonus card. Available social policies are listed on the left to choose from. That usually depends on how your cultural research is going, because with many, though not all, of these cultural researches, there you can unlock a new card each time, which are marked by this feather symbol in the tooltip. Once again about the social policies. For example, we can choose to get 1 production point and 1 science point every turn in the palace, the central building in the capital. By confirming, we will confirm the whole thing. In Celebration 7, there are 2 systems of satisfaction, a local satisfaction system and an empire-wide one. At the moment we only have 1 city, so it's pretty straightforward. That's how it works. If you click on a city, you'll see that a city produces 5 satisfaction in this case. Sources for this can be buildings, for example. Here you can see that the palace produces satisfaction. Certain terrain tiles can also produce satisfaction, and certain buildings can also provide satisfaction yields. There's also an empire-wide satisfaction level, but right now we only have 1 city. That's why, in the top left, you can see the total satisfaction in our entire empire at +5, the satisfaction we have overall in the empire. You collect it and keep collecting and collecting. And at some point, visible through social policy in the overview, you've unlocked a celebration and then get the choice, as just described. However, there should be a way for each individual city to be satisfied, meaning to be in the positive range. If a city ever has negative satisfaction, that can happen, for example, when transitioning from one era to another. During crises, this can, but doesn't have to, have fatal consequences. For the details, just let yourselves be surprised. Who did we meet there? It was one of those independent settlements. In Civilization 7, they combine what you know from Civilization 6 as so-called barbarians or as city-states. Both game systems are combined here into the independent peoples. When we click on this settlement, we see that we can invest in the virtual resource through so-called influence points to befriend them. Top left, detailed globe symbol. Currently we produce 1 influence. Each round, in this case, we have 170 available. Could we perform an action through which this settlement gradually, step by step, round by round, gains trust in us? At some point they stop attacking us, and eventually they start giving us gifts, and then they finally become our city-state. That means we're the suzerain there, essentially the diplomatic prince. Then we have the option to choose a bonus that lasts until the end of the era. At the end of the era, all city-states that are still on the map will disappear, and after the era transition, 9 city-states will appear that are better suited for this epoch. This city-state here starts as hostile, while some city-states start as friendly toward all empires. It's a bit quicker to become good friends with them, and they become a city-state earlier. Once you've unlocked the city-state bonus, in the final step if you want, you can even get a big chunk as a one-time reward. You can spend influence points to completely convert this city, making it your own city where you can manage the economy just like any other. Attention! I'm using the term city, but actually it's called community. I'll explain the difference between communities and cities in a moment. The general term used in the game is settlements. Well, what happened here? We've encountered the first unit of a foreign ruler. Let's see who it is.
And it's Ego Octavianus Augustus Caesar Humilis Primus Civis et Princeps Orbis Terrarum.
Octavian, in this case the leader of the Romans, because that's how I set it up at the start of the game. At these meetings you can choose from 3 options at the first encounter. You can either spend influence points and offer a friendly greeting, which gives you a relationship bonus. The foreign prince, his realm, and Eurus. This will help you get along peacefully with them, trade, maybe make agreements, and so on. If you lack or don't want to use influence, that's the neutral option. However, if you're sure that you want to attack them at some point anyway, and preferably soon, you can also spend influence points to worsen the relationship. In the case of a war, it's actually very helpful for you to have bad relations, because that helps your units to be combat ready. Otherwise, if you attack someone with whom you actually have a good relationship, your citizens and your soldiers won't be too happy about it. Soldiers receive a slight combat penalty on each attack in battle. Let's try to get along with Augustus. In the diplomacy menu, there is a selection of possible actions toward him, both negative and positive. My recommendation would be to take the opportunity at the start to boost research, specifically cultural research. Cultural exchange only occurs with another faction on the map, not with several. We propose and invest 60 influence points. He supports having a cultural exchange. That means he also invests influence when he responds. Then both sides receive an extra 6 culture per turn for 15 turns. That's a powerful bonus at the beginning. If he only wants to accept it without investing any influence himself, then we get 4 culture per turn, and he gets 2 culture per turn. And of course he can also choose not to accept it at all. That's possible too. He even supported it, which was very helpful for us. We go outside and realize our cultural research is booming. In the meantime, we've gained another citizen in our capital, and this one is very special. It's the 5th citizen. In the meantime, we have the opportunity to build a settler in Athens. This is different from the founder who built our capital. A unit that can establish other settlements, which start with community status, that is, the founder. The starting unit is the only unit that actually establishes a city right away, our capital. All other settlements start at the level of a community and are built by such settlers, or conquered if you play militarily. We have a hoplite in the build queue, a military unit that I set up a few turns ago. A settler is being added. Yes, we could also switch to arrows, but I would really like to have the settler guarded by a military unit. Something special just happened, an important discovery in the cultural tree. We managed to complete mysticism and can now found a pantheon. I'll show you that in a moment. But at the same time, we also have to make a first decision. We actually have the choice to either pick a mastery or continue with another regular cultural research direction. Many, but not all, cultural and scientific researches can be further deepened with more research. That doesn't take as many turns as the main research itself. Getting it, however, often unlocks other useful bonuses that you'd like to have. Here, for example, clan networks. A social policy card that, when we use it, gives 2 more food in each of our settlements. That's definitely helpful at the start, so it's something you can go for. However, discipline down here brings a great new feature, namely the free warlord, the first commander, and I definitely want to show you that. The second result of our research is that we can now choose the Pantheon. This rudimentary first belief for our civilization gives us a bonus that's tied to an altar. That's a building we can now construct as well. You can have only one in each settlement, and it ensures that this settlement receives the bonus that's associated with the corresponding pantheon. There are also basic yields from an altar. The best and most exciting part is this extra thing you can get. Be careful, other civilizations are also after a pantheon. And those who get and unlock one before us will, of course, snatch it right from under our noses. Someone here has already chosen the fertility rites. I could imagine that we do pretty well if we go for this, since we're having a bit of trouble with scientific research. The god of wisdom, a science for so-called quarters, which means that when a quarter is built in a settlement, the game sometimes calls them districts. It's the same thing. A science point is generated there. We can place a building on every tile, like the city tile, and a maximum of 2 if we construct 2 buildings there. When the maximum is reached, the game calls it a quarter or district. And then we can automatically get such a bonus here if we choose this pantheon, while our scout runs along the entire coastline. By now, we know that our region is surrounded by sea, and our hoplite, one of the special units of the Greeks, is already exploring the map. In the meantime, we now have the opportunity up here to connect a resource for the first time. In this case, it's kaolin. We can grow our city. And since we've gradually moved upwards, we can now connect this resource in the 3rd ring. The corresponding upgrade is being built, and for the first time we can actually tinker in the resource screen and assign a resource. At the start it was automatically assigned to the capital Athens, but you can also click on it, remove it, and then assign it manually again. There are resources in the game for a long time. Generally speaking, there are 3 types of resources, and later on, a few more. There are imperial resources, which will be listed up here. They give a bonus to all settlements on the map that belong to us, no matter where they are. You don't have to assign them manually. Then there are the urban resources, which can only be used in settlements with a city rank. And the simple bonus resources, you can use and assign them anywhere, even in settlements that only have community status. So far we don't have a community yet. But the second settlement we will found will be a community. Attention. This scene isn't quite as peaceful as it looks. Our scout encounters other wanderers here. However, these are representatives down here and up here from other independent settlements. We can't necessarily have a friendly let's share with them. The sandwiches. Maybe a good opportunity, since their settlements might be nearby, to move towards the water. We can do that now because through research we've unlocked, as you can see here, sailing from... Then regular land units can enter coastal terrain tiles. That means that's these light blue water lines around the coast. Further out there's dark blue still lying in the fog of war. Ocean tiles. You can only sail on them starting from the 2nd era with your ships, and even then at first they slow you down a lot. It costs your entire movement. A whole turn is used up when you move onto an ocean tile, and only gradually, through research, do you unlock the ability to move faster with your ships or with your embarked units. At first you lose some hit points each turn when venturing onto the ocean. That improved through research in the Age of Exploration. For now, staying along the coast works. These units immediately transform into a small boat. They are considered waterborne units. We can cruise around a bit and we'll soon meet the next leader, in this case, the next female leader.
MEU Femes Hatshepsut. Baram de Geset Kemet.
In the southeast of the map, our settler has now found a nice spot to establish our 2nd settlement. The Romans and their capital are nearby, and as you know, they will expand 3 tiles, potentially reaching up to here. Still, I would like to settle a bit close to them. That will definitely upset them diplomatically. And we're a bit cramped up here, but it's just so tempting. Just look at all the rivers running through here. They give multiple bonuses throughout the game. Up here is an iron resource, one of those imperial resources that every one of our infantry units gets. As soon as a mine is built on this iron deposit, you get a combat strength point. More in battles up here is a cool city resource, silk, which you can assign to cities to get more culture and so on and so forth. When you click on a settler, you'll see that the map view changes and there are different colors. It's very simple. Anything that's red, you can't settle there at all because it's too cramped, there are neighbors nearby, or because those are terrain tiles where you just can't settle. You can't do it with resources, mountains, etc. Yellow are terrain tiles that are somewhat suitable. Green ones are the ones recommended to us because there's drinking water there. And that gives a satisfaction bonus in the cities. You don't have to settle on these terrain tiles, you can use the yellow ones too, but when unsure, choosing a green tile is better. A high-rise symbol like this is even a special recommendation from the game for where you should settle, and then you also have a floodplain tile like this one up front, marked with this river symbol. That just means randomly from time to time, due to a flood, it can happen that terrain improvements or city districts built on it can be damaged. It sounds bad, but there's also an advantage. And that's because floods also randomly improve the yields on these terrain tiles a little bit each time. Which doesn't matter for city districts but is helpful for rural districts. I actually want to settle up here because I definitely want to get this iron resource up front and maybe also be able to move a bit onto the water. Augustus won't like it though, I already know that. Founding the settlement will be possible next turn. Sorry, that was the wrong unit. The settler will be possible next turn. At the moment, we've used up all our movement points. In the meantime, we can have our hoplites sit out for a turn and maybe even move the other units down already. I'm worried trouble's coming soon. We'll move the other hoplite here as well. I'm afraid the worst is about to happen around Augustus. One turn later, and now, one turn after that, we actually can, because we now have enough movement points, build our second settlement right here with the settler. Of course, the unit disbands and we start with 2 citizens. That means we can immediately expand the surrounding tiles further. And I would really go down towards the Romans, so they don't snatch this away from us right under our noses. If we settle here, these 3 tiles will be ours and the Romans can't claim them. Augustus will be furious. We can't build anything in these settlements. They're what we call communities, at least for now. That means we can get buildings here, but we can only buy them with gold bonuses. Then, when the city reaches a certain population threshold, we can spend gold once to turn such a community into a fully fledged city, where we can also use production points. At the moment, all production points generated in the city are automatically converted into gold and added to our treasury, which means the production points are lost. And as I said, constructing buildings is only possible by spending money. We start with what's called a community focus. At the beginning, there's only one to choose from. Small communities get a small boost and grow faster, the growth is accelerated, and the next citizens will arrive quickly. By now, Rome, Augustus's capital, is right in front of our noses and most importantly on the right side, the top side of our blockade. Our hoplites are marching in. Say hello and just click the city tile. The diplomacy menu appears, and we still regret a little that we didn't try to worsen our relationship with him earlier. You can see up here that it's at ±0. If he were hostile towards us, what I'm planning would be a bit easier now. Still, we're going to do it. We're declaring war on him. This will be what's called a surprise war. Our relationship isn't hostile. He'll then start with good war support to his advantage. That means we'll have a combat mode in every single battle we have. We'll do it anyway. The colleague is very pleased. Here we can take a look at what that actually means. You see, he has an advantage in war support, but there are things we can do to balance that out a bit. We can use this flexibly deployable resource, influence, to support ourselves, to stir up our people, to stir up others as well, and to gain more war support for ourselves. Once we've done it, we're at +2. The next time we'll need a bit more. It's good that we've collected influence points, so we can do it again. We can't afford the next one, and with +1 everything already looks much better. There are also ways you can generally create a variety of cool effects through wonders. Here's an example up front in the alignment tree. If we tried to master the disciplines, we would see in the tooltip that we could build the Gate of All Nations, a world wonder that always gives us +2 support in every battle, in every war. That would be really cool. Of course, it's a bit late now. This celebration fits well. It's pure coincidence that it's happening right now. We're taking more food everywhere so our population can keep growing. That would be the first one. And as I just mentioned, with a new celebration, another social policy slot is added here. Let's go for getting more gold in all settlements, because our units also cost gold maintenance. Rule of thumb, the higher quality and more modern they are, the more expensive the gold maintenance that the units consume. We'll just move forward once, and now it's getting a bit risky. Up here you can see a so-called legatus. Those are the special warlords. The Roman warlord or commander is a feature available to everyone. We recently unlocked the first of these units through research. This is our commander. He's relatively quick on the map, and he has a skill tree, an experience tree. When you click on it here, it pops up. It is available in 5 areas. He gains experience points from the battles that the units around him fight when they are attacked. But especially when they attack, and even more so when they attack successfully or even conquer settlements. When he gets experience points and the circle at the top is full, could we use that to unlock one of these bonuses anywhere here? My tip for the beginning, what I find really cool is this here in the maneuver tree or in the maneuver column, the mobility. Then you already get +1 movement, and I'll explain that in a moment. All the units he has with him, he also works as a troop transporter, move a bit faster. And what I find really cool is in logistics, the second one here at the front, that he can take 6 units with him instead of 4. I'll show you that. Clicking him shows 4 unit slots at the bottom right. If there are units standing around him, then he can load them up. You just click once on load formation units, please. Then they're back in the troop transporter, then we can move to the front with the units. You can unlock through the skill tree that it goes much faster and is much more convenient than if we had to move each unit individually. We'll move with him toward the front, and up here we already have the opportunity to attack. The legatus here is, as I said, the special unit of the commanders on the Roman side. And you see he has a legatus, an army with him, which accompanies him up here. We can attack once. You see we deal damage. The legatus cannot defend himself. He has the unit in his baggage, but hasn't deployed it. There's a significant victory. We get a penalty of -1 war fatigue, but we're already weakening him a bit. However, this way we usually can't destroy the commander's units. Simple rule in the game. Here we move 1 space forward right away. Simple rule in the game. If a commander is really badly affected and he has a unit with him, then at some point he will automatically unload it. We can do that here too. Also, we can move our units onto navigable rivers like these. There are 2 river types, narrow ones and wider navigable ones. That means ships can move up here from the sea without being slowed down. This also lets units move onto the water and travel swiftly along the rivers. But I won't continue this game, it won't be finished. There will be a long initial Let's Play in February on Twitch, then uploaded to YouTube soon after. The Civilization 7 playlist is linked in the corner and throughout. On this YouTube channel, you'll find many videos about Civilization 7, where I show you more details. This explanation video still lacks one thing in its crash course. That's the transition between the eras. Here we're playing a game as the Romans. I hope it doesn't confuse you with our Augustus. Just a moment ago he was our arch enemy. Now we're up there in the top left ourselves. You see a percentage value, that's the era progress. Is it at 100%? Then there's the leap from one era to the next, from the age of antiquity to exploration, from exploration to the modern age. Those are the 3 eras at Civilization 7's release. We're at the late stage of antiquity, and here you see 4 legacy paths divided into culture, military, science and economy. And below you can see a bar for each one, which gradually fills from left to right. By playing successfully, you make progress here. Here it goes to For example, it's about assigning many resources to your settlements on the economy path. On the science path, it's about discovering codices, the great works of antiquity, through research. Most of them are unlocked and displayed in libraries. On the military path, it's about how successfully you've settled or conquered settlements, and on the culture path, it's about building as many wonders of the world as possible. When you fill up the bar and reach one of the milestones, you get a legacy point. That means when you change eras, you can spend these legacy points for advantages that you carry into the next era, giving you a small starting bonus each time. And if you make it all the way to the right, then even in the selection menu, when you're picking your advantages for the start of the new era, a few especially powerful options are called golden ages. You can only ever choose one. If you unlock several, you have to decide on one, and the bonuses are accordingly strong. You can compare yourself to the other leaders in the rankings at any time. You can see, for example, how far along they are. And here, these are the legacy points listed again, so these are the points you've already collected here. The percentage display shows that when you reach 70%, this happens. With the social policies, something will be unlocked here during the crisis, and then the crisis begins. That's a narrative element, an event, meaning a story that pops up. You usually have a choice between 2 or 3 different alternatives, each one as modest as the other. But you can see where you can get through the ball in the most reasonable way. Usually it's about assigning policy cards or crisis cards here, which you already know, and crisis cards will also pop up here, and you have to take them. And they often have a small bonus, but always a big penalty. Every time another 10 percentage points are added, the crisis intensifies, and you have to choose another policy card. It gradually gets more and more tricky. And the percentage at the top fills up through events in the game, which you contribute to, but also the major AI competitors. Completing powerful research fills progress gradually, so you can't play indefinitely in the ancient era. When you hit 100%, everyone switches. What happens during an era change, and what happens to your cities? You keep all your settlements, none of your settlements disappear. However, only the capital remains a full-fledged city. All other cities become towns, and they remain towns. Or in the case that you once turned a town into a city for a gold fee, it will be downgraded back to a town, which sounds worse than it actually is. You can reverse that with a one-time cash fee. All your buildings will remain, but not necessarily all your units. There's a formula running in the background. It ensures that most of your units are preserved. They stay behind to defend your settlements. You can help a bit with this if you have as many fleet commanders or land commanders as possible, meaning those leaders who can carry ships or land units. Whether you've packed them or not, the more of them you have, the more of your units you can potentially keep. And what's really cool is that they automatically level up and transform into their type. In the new era, a simple ancient swordsman becomes an early light gunpowder unit, and an archer becomes a heavy crossbowman, and so on. And it's similar with ships. Otherwise, all your wonders of the world, of course, remain in their old splendor. All timeless buildings you have, you remember, also remain. The other buildings that are tied to an era, like buildings from the Age of Antiquity or buildings from the Age of Exploration that you've built by now, those don't disappear either. They remain, but in the next era you only get their base yields, not their adjacency bonuses anymore. Some buildings, for example, here I placed a garden, benefit from having certain things next to them. In this case, if there are coastal terrain tiles nearby, the garden provides extra food yields. And in the new era, the garden is still there, but it's a bit less valuable and still costs something each round. Maintenance. Usually that's gold, but sometimes it's also happiness points. It gives slightly lower yields, but you can build any building over these, even if it's not the matching gold or food building. You can simply build over and replace it with any building as soon as you construct one, or you can continue on a new free tile. And did it work? Do you feel ready for your first own game now? Civilization 7? If not quite yet, there's a playlist for Civilization 7 up in the corner. I also create more videos, let's plays, specials and live streams on Twitch. There you can pick up many more small and big tips and tricks if you want. And if you want, you can also subscribe, click the bell and so on. That way you won't miss anything that could be helpful for you. Enjoy playing Civilization 7 yourself.